Black Mamba don't like that.
I know you're gonna dig this.
Coming to you live from New York, it's the great PODBINO.
For our dozens
And dozens.
and dozens of listeners out there, welcome back. 2013.
It's been a while.
PODBINO made it, guys. I'm proud of us.
Wow.
I'm extremely proud.
Very exciting.
Welcome to the first episode of the great PODBINO 2013 edition. I'm here with Christian.
What's up?
Great intro, man. And my man Almiz.
Sup?
Very colorful, guys. Appreciate it. Hey, well, let's do a little Knicks talk. Let's cut down to it. Let's not even mess around.
Yeah,
with
we might
these.
as well.
Let's just get down to brass tacks.
Talk about anything else that's going
Is
to
it
turn
brass
into Knicks.
tacks? This is fascinating. Radio.
Tax.
I don't need
I always
Tax.
mess those sayings up.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about this. Gentlemen, let's get down to it. I got a bunch of questions for the two most idealistic, insane, irrational Knicks fans I know.
In a good way.
In a good way, I suppose.
Shoot.
Let's go. The Knicks, your New York Knicks, are 23-11, guys. They are second in the Eastern Conference. They are one of the best teams in the NBA. I don't think there's any way around it.
Best point differential in the Eastern Conference.
We can spat off these stats for days.
Slightly
and days
above
and
This,
days.
this is
Miami
being
Heat.
recorded. Kobash just went on record, said that the Knicks were one of the best teams in the NBA.
They're
So,
one of the best teams in the NBA.
I'll take that
I don't
on
really.
January
I don't know
1.
how else you can say it, but we're hitting a little bit of a malaise after a really hot start. I believe it was 18-6, something like that. The team was 5-5 in the last 10. So, do you guys think that this is a swoon, or do you think that this is just something that happens in the season? You got a couple tough games. You got games against the Celtics, games against the Lakers on Christmas. Is this a malaise, or is this a team that's just going through the regular ebbs and flows of a season?
Malaise.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. If you look at the losses, I mean, I wouldn't say any of them were really awful ones that you really just, I mean, maybe the Sacramento one, but they were going to
Carmelo
win.
didn't play that game.
And they were going to win that game. And
Yeah.
that was James Johnson hits a 3 at the buzzer.
James Johnson, a
And,
black belt in karate.
Oh, all right. Well, I'm glad.
That's
I'm
a
glad I
fact.
brought that up then.
And I learned something today.
I would say it's malaise and reintegration and a lack of Raymond Felton. You're
Yeah.
bringing back
You know what?
Stat,
Yeah.
who he has some sort of rapport with Felton. He played arguably his best basketball of his career with Felton in that brief first half season with D'Antoni. And Stat comes back as Felton is out with a hand injury. Their average point guard age is now between Kidd and Prigioni, probably
50.
like 38. So I think those two guys are just, you have to sort of conserve them. JR's having to handle some of the ball handling and offensive duties, and Melo's missed some games with knee injuries, and now he's getting suspended for his lingering around the Celtics bus, because lingering is illegal, Kobash.
Apparently, you can't go and talk to a guy about dinner plans or.
It's
breakfast
right there in
plans
the
around
rule
bus.
book.
Basketball
Players shall not
Basketball
linger.
reasons are legal too.
Exactly.
So, I mean, it's true.
I'm not worried about your New York Knicks. I think we are poised, as I mentioned, the point differential, which is often a good indicator of where a team is headed. I think they're playing good ball. They're just got to sort of get everyone back, and it's January. The team is old. I think they're going to win 50
I mean,
games.
Felton. I mean, I remember watching the Laker game on Christmas Day, and I feel like Felton blew that game, just taking ill-advised shots and basically just taking reins of a team when he was hurt.
Yeah.
And and there was nothing the Lakers could do to stop Carmelo Anthony, but Felton missed maybe about 5 layups, maybe about 6 turnovers in the fourth quarter, something like that. I'm probably wrong, but it just felt that way.
Yeah.
The only
He's
problem
done that
is
a few times this
the only
year.
problem is that when he's out, and he's not a great defender, but when he's out, the guards that the Knicks put out there, aside for J.R. Smith, just can't defend the ball.
No.
Like Jason Kidd and Pablo Prigioni are just they're nothing. They don't even do anything. So you bring in a point guard league.
Kid
all
can
these
guard,
guys
but
coming
just
in.
not the quicker, faster.
He's a good helper, off-ball guy.
Yeah.
Knows how to make the right decisions, but just one-on-one. I mean,
Yeah.
so I mean, we need Felton back. We need Felton back. Oh, I mean, even Shumpert, just to take some like edge off these guards that are getting into the paint so quickly. I mean,
Yeah, Lillard torched us in the Portland game, and I think the schedule coming up is pretty easy, and I think Melo's going to be playing with an edge, to say the least.
I actually don't really think it's that easy. Looking at January, you have at Indiana tomorrow, which would be actually today, which is Thursday. Then you have a back-to-back. You have Friday at the Garden against the Bulls. You have Sunday against the Hornets. Then at Detroit, which is not a
Hornets and Detroit are two of the worst teams.
Yeah, they're pretty bad. But then
Brooklyn and
you have
Boston are
Brooklyn
big games.
at Boston, at Philly, which is always a tough game. You got Atlanta, and you got Atlanta at home, and then you have Orlando at home.
But post that Atlanta game, I would say I was looking more at the February slate.
Yeah, February you're looking Milwaukee,
Sacramento,
Sacto,
maybe two
Detroit,
playoff teams in there.
Washington, Minnesota. You also got Toronto twice. I mean, you get a garbage February, but on the whole, it's a tough January. It's a tough January to go.
that's the thing. If
a lot of
looking at February, you can kind of salvage January knowing that, by the time February rolls around, you'll have Shumpert back, Felton will be on the way back, and you're playing a cream puff schedule. I don't think there's anything to worry about.
Yeah, I think the I think this team is locked in and they get what they're trying to do.
I never thought I'd see the day where the Knicks fans are preaching
said that-
patience and telling me,
I said it so confidently too. I was like,
the Knicks are going to be fine. Don't worry about it.
Fine.
No problem. I must say, the saying, even a broken clock is right twice a day. I feel like that's sort of the underlying feeling of the Jim Dolan era. 'Cause this guy you literally couldn't, help him enough from falling on his face. He made error after error, and the Grunwald hiring was huge. He's been, how many diamonds in the rough has this guy found? He found Novak and Lynn. Prigione's been a great backup.
Copeland.
A few other teams we're looking at. Copeland's been really good.
James White has been helpful.
He's been a great signing, and he's been Grunwald as the GM has been a great leader of the franchise, and working with Woodson, who I think is the best coach since Van Gundy. And
it's not saying much.
Yeah, true.
But he is.
But hey, Larry Brown walked through that door.
Larry Brown, Herb Williams.
Zeke was on the sideline.
Zeke.
Don Chaney.
And the gentleman thief himself.
Don Nelson.
Mike D'Antoni. But I think Grunwald, so that was a huge, the fact that Dolan somehow has hired the right guy for a change and is making the right moves. And then the Lynn signing, which, everyone, myself included, was bellyaching over, has really not hurt them at all. Maybe they should have got something for Lynn, but the loss of Lynn hasn't prevented them from being a competitive team. They get good play out of their guards anyway. So
Well, I think as we move farther and farther away from the Lynn signing and see this team, I just think that it's really apparent that Lynn never would have worked with Carmelo.
Yeah.
They're just both too demanding of the ball, and this team really isn't ready, or not ready, I should say, but this team really isn't equipped to deal with deal with developing young players. This is a veteran team. This is a veteran team that is poised to win now, and you spend so much money with Chandler, and you spend all this money with Carmelo and Amari. You're playing to win now. You're not playing to have a 23-year-old, 24-year-old who's played, 6 career minutes or whatever it was. You're just not. That's just not the right signing, and he wouldn't have worked with Carmelo.
And I think there was an ego clash with those.
Letting Lynn,
NJR.
if you're going to let Lynn go, Raymond Felton was the perfect point guard to bring in because he's been here before, he's done well, and to know that Lynn is on his way out, he's gonna want to be better. He lost all the weight. Mm-hmm. He's been great. We just gotta wait for him to come back and help this offense stabilize.
We'll get back to Raymond Felton a little later in the podcast, but I want to circle back to something you guys talked about very briefly. I want to talk about it. It's been 4 games, and Amari Stoudemire's back, and he's coming off the bench willingly, which is
sitting tall and talented.
Literally sitting tall and talented. Well, he's sitting tall. He's still a tall guy, but he's been kind of what you'd expect. He's averaging about 20 minutes a game over 4 games, as I said. Kind of up and down shooting. 4 for 10 one night, 3 for 5 another. Obviously, his mobility is limited. He's never been a great defensive guy, but he's not even rebounding at this point. It looks like he's hurt. He's actually going to be out the next couple of games, experiencing soreness in his knee, the same left knee that he just had surgery on.
No, he'll play. He's just
There's
gonna
like
get
a
minutes
stricter
dialed
minutes
back.
limit.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
So
he just have soreness. Woodson emphasized it was not a setback.
I mean,
Got a little overzealous.
they need to say that
playing
it's not
him.
a setback so that the headline at the Post tomorrow doesn't say setback.
Right.
So
I mean, granted, probably in 3 days it'll be like Stoudemire out for a year. Microfracture, and we were lied to. But
if it's anything like the past, but
yeah,
So, well, that kind of brings me back to Miz. You kind of nailed it there.
Mhm.
I'm gonna play a prediction game here. I want you guys to fill in the blanks. So predict with me. In Game 60, Amari will look like.
in Game 60.
I think he'll look like more of the player that he's been. I mean, he's getting better in terms of his IQ, and you can see him on defense actually working. You know, he'll
Yeah.
close out, he'll box out.
Yeah,
Um,
getting into an actual defensive position.
Right.
Which I've
No,
never
I
seen
mean,
Amari do.
God, I mean,
He was never taught defense. You can't blame the guy.
I mean, that in itself is funny because I mean, defense is mostly about effort and not about not as much about IQ. But he's learning now because he can finally see that it's important. So
Yeah.
I mean, really, I don't want to say that's all you can ask for, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. If he can provide what he's providing on offense, which is maybe 10 points a game, and then actually do things on defense.
Yeah, or at least contributing to the
Right,
playing hard.
Yeah, how can you really ask?
He's
for
an
anything
upgrade
more
over
than
Chris Copeland.
that? Right.
He's a better Chris Copeland.
Right.
So you guys sound. This is such a ridiculous podcast. You guys are so optimistic right now, and I really.
I would say in
Well,
Game 60.
I mean, here's the thing. It's like you could say, oh man, like Amare used to be, this high flying guy that just jumped over everybody, scored 25 points a game, got 8 rebounds, but
you could say that.
I could. But now that this team is transformed into truly Carmelo Anthony's team, it's almost better that Amare is a little limited because, if he comes off the bench and is all of a sudden scoring 13 points in 4 minutes, then there's going to be talk like, oh, Amare back into the starting lineup, push Melo back to 3. And then you have Amare playing with Tyson, and that just I don't like that because they both need to be in the pick and roll game, and it's just they're clogging the offense.
Yeah.
And I actually enjoy it when Amare comes off the bench for Tyson, and they can run the offense the same way.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think there are 2 options. Option 1 is that this soreness is going to lead to a season-ending injury for Stat.
You say this with a smile on your face.
Option 1. Well, I really don't think he's that pivotal to our success. I think he's like the 5th most important player on the team.
That's assuming that Rasheed Wallace comes back. I think if
True, but even if he didn't, I think we could do a lot of. I mean, I honestly think Copeland replicates a lot of what Stoudemire does in terms of.
But then that's also
scoring,
assuming that
creating his own
Woodson's going to
shot.
give Copeland, first big off the bench type minutes, or even second big off the bench. Like
Yeah. I mean, just playing with the second unit.
right.
If he was, I mean, let's put it this way: we didn't have Stoudemire for the first third of the season, and we're in first in the Atlantic Division. So I don't think our success will. I think he'll help us. The team is better with him. It's a deeper team, and he brings a different look off the bench. But I don't think, there's always the possibility of injury with this guy. That being said, I think if he stays healthy and continues on this path, I think he'll be like a 12 to 14 point guy off the bench, who. And I've been saying this all along. I don't think I feel like Stoudemire is somewhat grounded and understands sort of what's going on. I don't think his ego is too big to cloud his otherwise good judgment and make it about him or I came here and signed a big deal and now I should be getting the minutes. I think he gets that he's a somewhat reduced player from what he was at his peak, and that this team doesn't need him to be a 20-point scorer to be a starter. I think he's happy to be filling a role off the bench and a part of a winning team.
Yeah, and that lack of ego is actually the best thing because when he was out and when we were doing well, the worry was he's going to come back, Woodson's going to put him in the starting lineup out of respect.
Right.
and you don't know what it's going to do. Like Woodson even dodged the question because he didn't even know how big of a deal it was going to be.
And who knows how finessed it was behind the scenes.
Right,
in terms of people
and we're
talking
going
and
from
whatnot.
worrying he's going to be in the starting lineup and ruin the chemistry to him not doing that.
Right.
So I mean, there's nothing really to complain about. I mean, he's not hurting the chemistry because he's coming off the bench like we wanted.
Yeah.
So, I mean, another question too. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on.
There's so much arrogance. I obviously nobody else is here. You're only listening to this right now, but the arrogance in the air is so thick
my
right
chest
now.
is puffed out right now. It's like
it's
through the
amazing.
wall.
From-
Bring on Miami, dude.
from two guys under 5'10", it's like you guys are like 6'7"
I'm gonna run through
right
a
now.
brick wall for the Knicks right now.
The
Unbelievable.
Bockers.
Well, we're talking about returns, right? So how can we not talk about Iman Shumpert?
Shump.
The return of America's most beloved flat top is coming, guys.
And favorite rapper on the rise.
Oh, God, really?
Shumpy. No.
We're gonna have to post
Nobody calls him Shumpy, and I don't think his
We're gonna have to post some of those tracks on.
tracks are really. It actually worries me because most of the time I feel like there's a blunt right around the corner, and the season will go literally up in smoke with his cronies on the video throwing money at strippers and whatnot. But
That's yeah. Hey, Tommy Duffy, come here.
That's not a hip hop
Tommy-
stereotype at all. But I think that actually pulls on something that I want to talk about with Shumpert because when a young athletic player is sidelined, really the best thing he could do to becoming a smarter player, because we all know that at least initially he's not going to be the same Iman Shumpert. But that said, he cannot be worse than Ronnie Brewer. So, I mean, I don't even know what else to say. I mean, Ronnie Brewer, he's Ronnie Brewer.
Ronnie Brewer's. He's not out of the rotation, right? He's still getting. minutes.
He's starting out of necessity right now.
He's getting minutes. He's been pretty bad. He's shooting 37%, 32% from three-point land, 44% from the line. But I think that's just because he's really not taking many free throws. But even so, that's pretty pathetic.
Hack a Ronnie.
5 points a game. I mean, 1 steal, 1 assist. He's been pretty terrible.
Yeah, he's the 5th option.
So that being said,
all the
Shumpert's
time.
going to be taking his minutes. Ronnie Brewer probably is going to La La Land. Not literally La La Land.
Not the,
Does
the
he
Lakers.
like Honey Nut Cheerios?
Maybe the Lakers
Or
want
is that
another
like-
guard.
All right, we'll get back to that.
Yeah, Honey Nut Cheerios are delicious,
They are delicious.
but I don't think Lala is delicious at all.
I mean,
All right, well, too many people have talked
Yeah.
about it.
Oh, when you
we
Google Lala, you see there's underwear pictures of her, pictures on all fours. It just seems to me like I'm serious. Look it up. Look it up.
Such a straight face.
I mean,
said that.
I had to Google to think what does Carmelo's wife look like again? And then it's all these risque pictures of her. I would think if you had a woman, if you were married to a woman who is famous,
hold on a second. Let me turn my safe search off.
and turn moderate to off there. And I just feel like you've probably heard things like this before, so it's strange to me that it would so infuriate him this time. As AJ McCarron said in the wake of Darnell Dockett tweeting his phone number at Miss Alabama, what was the hashtag? It was better keep dreaming or something. I mean, that's all Melo needs to say. Laugh it off. As other guys, LeBron laughed it off last year. Other guys have, KG's trash talk is solely intended to get in your head. And now we don't have Melo for a game. And going back to Shumpert, though, I echo your points about you wonder with all the extracurricular stuff if he's just getting caught up in the whole being in New York City thing as a 22-year-old millionaire. But yeah, I think for the first time he'll have some veterans in the backcourt with him who can
guide him.
Yeah, guide him, and I think it'll be a work in progress. But by April, I would imagine that he's Ronnie's getting DNP CDs, and
Can't wait for that.
and Iman's out there.
Lala Vasquez is all right. I've been looking at Lala Vasquez.
Do you see the pictures on beds on all fours?
Well, yeah,
But,
Kobesh
I
has been
mean,
quiet
I got my own
because he's been
Google.
Googling.
She looks like she hasn't slept in 7 weeks. My God. I mean, no, she's. I get it. Come over here. I mean, this I get it.
Do you?
I don't know if I would tell a guy that looks like Carmelo Anthony that his
What
wife.
is this right here? She's like laying on a bed. What is this?
It's fantastic, is what it is.
If you did,
Anyway, this is really fascinating for
What, you
people
see
that
what
are
I'm
not
saying?
in this room. No, I see exactly what you're saying.
so
Do yourself a favor and Google Lala Vasquez. You'll get exactly.
I mean, I feel like if you Google her and you, whether or not you like, I think it just basically just says the type of woman that you like. 'Cause I mean, I look at that and just like, I don't know, I'm grossed out. She's just like in my face. I'm just like, dude, get those features out of my face. But I don't know. I mean, I guess she's not awful.
Well, everybody, you can go look up.
She's
you
a
can
former
go look
VJ.
up Christian's Match.com profile to find out exactly what he likes.
I'm intrigued about the MAMBINO team putting up potentially 10 hottest, 10 ugliest wives of basketballers.
I'm not sure if we want to get into Bleacher Report territory that way, or
You just prefer to focus on the ugly male in the room. That's
Right.
fine.
no. I mean, let's keep it full homo. We're not going to go no homo here. We're just going to keep it full homo. So.
Yeah.
So anyway, I wanted to know. We talked about Iman a little bit. Going to play the same game that we played with Amari in Game 60. Iman Shumpert will look like.
Shump. That's a good question.
That's about 25 games from now. It's more.
Well, if
than
you're gonna
enough
go
time
on
to get his
physical appearance, I mean, I heard that he's gonna cut the flat top when he gets on the court,
Really?
and I'm
Could slow him down a little bit.
Believe it
I'm
or not, I
not-
wasn't talking about physical appearance.
well,
Last year he averaged 10 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. He shot 40% from the field, 31% from 3, 2 steals.
But are those shots going to be available to him?
I don't think he'll. I don't think the points are. He's a defensive player. I would imagine it would be like 7 or 8 points.
listen, he's not he's a defensive player that's like makes you. He still makes you honest. I mean, he's not afraid to shoot.
Yeah,
he
took
can
3
go
threes a
to
game
the
last
rack.
year. He only made
I mean,
one of them.
you watch these games. Ronnie Brewer gets, most of the time he gets the ball is off broken plays, and he'll get the ball in the paint area, and just everybody knows he's not going to shoot.
Yeah.
And it's just, it angers the crap out of me. It's like I know you're gonna get blocked, but just go up and have some dignity.
He has an 11 PER right now. Ronnie's
Fantastic.
taking 2. He's on average taking 2 3-pointers a game. So I think that the shots are there. He takes 5 shots a game. 2 of them are threes. I would imagine that Shumpert's going to get a lot of kickouts and corner threes. Although I did read that in practice they were having him run a lot of pick and rolls as sort of like an emergency fourth guard, which he did do sometimes last year. There was an ill-fated Shump at point guard experiment run by.
Do you guys feel like he's going to
scientist
look
D'Antoni.
the same? We'll get to D'Antoni later. We'll do that in the Lakers pod. Do you guys feel like he's going to look the same defensively, or are you expecting, as you should, some attrition?
Sure, I think you have to. I mean,
Yeah.
It's funny because looking at Ronnie, I mean, he's the only reason the only reason he's in is because he can play defense, but he's not actually that quick laterally. He kind of just plays based on smarts, and he's a good team defender. So that's really my worry with Shump. Like, if you're not going to be there athletically, like, we hope that he can compensate that by knowing when to rotate, knowing when to reach, and basically just be that guy that we need, that Ronnie is being, but not being a total sieve on offense.
Yeah. I don't think it's hard. It's so hard to predict these things. With you have Peterson coming back and Adrian Peterson and almost breaking the NFL record, and then Rubio comes back, but then misses time because he's still compensating for the injury. I think it's really hard to put a timetable on when he'll look like the old self, or if he'll look like the old self. But he's what, 21, 22 years old. And they're able to with their depth. I mean, they have Brewer, they have James White, and when Felton gets back, they play Kidd a lot at the 2. I think they can take their time if he's not back up to speed or whatever, to say, we got to wait for you to get healthier, as in, to get to reapproach the level that you had explosion wise, or to bring what you used to bring, which is athleticism and energy on defense. Who knows what we'll get from him? I think, again, we're first in the Atlantic without him, so anything that he brings is going to be a value. We're only going to be better with him. It's not like we're at 500 and on the outside looking in and need him to come back and do something. It'll only be gravy, as they say.
It's a good time to be a Knicks
Yeah,
fan.
I
It's a
hate
good
you
time to be a
Yeah,
Knicks fan. You've
absolutely.
suffered for a while.
On
so
the
it's-
outside
it's
looking in,
okay.
like your Los Angeles Lakers.
We'll do that. We'll do this. We're just gonna be a completely different podcast. I can't even talk about this right now. As we're watching the Lakers down 9 to the Spurs in a game that I'm only half paying attention to.
The Los Angeles Soccer Rays.
We'll
Yeah.
get back to
Sacre
this.
Bino.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about. We're talking about the Knicks.
Gawa.
Sacre.
So with these two key returns, talking about Shump, we're talking about Amari. What do you guys see the rotation looking like? It's obviously going to be much, much different. You're talking about two key rotation players coming back.
Yeah.
You have Rashid questionably coming back.
Yeah,
they can be kind of in and out.
They haven't really had, although Camby, have you noticed this? We haven't talked about this yet. Camby looks a lot more in shape. I feel like he was throwing back some cheeseburgers and Bud Heavies this summer or something because it looked like when he first came back, his face was a little puffy and like he was just like looked slow and dumpy. And now he looks like pretty skinny and I think he was just sort of working his way back into shape. That's the thing though. The Knicks it's been a fluid rotation all year. Like it seems like guys have come and gone. Carmelo's missed a few games. Felton's missed a few games. Kidd has missed a few games. Stoudemire is just getting back. Kurt Thomas has played and not played. Camby has played and not played. So I think ultimately if Shumpert comes back and is healthy, he's going to take Brewer's minutes, I would imagine. Stat is playing as is. He's probably eating into some of Rashid's minutes and or Kurt Thomas. I think
And Kurt Thomas is already.
Kurt is the odd man out in that.
Kurt's the
group.
odd man
Like,
out right now.
Camby was a good player last year. I mean, he was. I think he led the league in rebound rate last year. He's not. Kurt Thomas is. He's been a scrub basically for the latter portion of his career. He's like a guy who sets picks and has hard fouls. I think his skills are most replaceable.
I mean, it really just goes to show how much of a weapon Carmelo Anthony is on offense. Because if you look at the starting lineup they fielded against Boston, it was Kidd, Brewer, Melo, Camby, and Tyson.
Right.
And the only offense that the other four guys bring is Jason Kidd shooting an open three, and Tyson Chandler off a pick and roll,
Which they really can't run with.
and
that crew.
and Camby and Brewer, they don't really provide anything on offense. I mean,
or any spacing.
right. I mean, Camby has actually turned out to be a decent passer into the post.
Yeah.
But I mean, Carmelo Anthony has been unbelievable to be able to keep the Knicks in a game with that starting lineup.
Yeah.
Just to keep them in the game has been
Yeah.
unbelievable. So I mean, just getting the full rotation back. I mean, you're gonna field a lineup of Felton, Kidd, Shumpert, Melo, and Tyson, which is a great lineup. And then you have so much depth. I mean,
Yeah.
J.R. Smith has been tremendous in this last month. So, I mean, that's the formula, right? You lose a couple guys, and the guys on the bench that get more minutes, they step up. It's just, I mean, it's so weird that it's that simple for the Knicks.
Yeah, and I think you're right. They're so old in that I don't even know if there will be a regular rotation until April. I think guys are going to miss games pretty routinely.
I mean, do you think that you can win in the playoffs without having your rotation settled until April?
I
don't
just
know if
think
you
they're going
can.
to be resting guys and there will be various old man injuries associated with this team, which is why it was so important for them in building the team to have vets who could sort of adapt and understand, roles on teams and playing and not playing, that sort of thing. I think by a month from now they have a rotation now. It's not like they're just throwing guys out there, but
Yeah.
I think that it'll change as guys' availability changes.
I mean, the only problem I see is that, when key guys get injured, and you have people like Kidd and Novak playing more minutes than they should be, when a guy like Carmelo is off the floor, or even when he's on sometimes, they get a little too trigger happy with a three-point shot.
Yeah.
And even though up to date, I mean, they're taking a lot of threes. A lot of the threes that they do take are good shots. The only bad ones come off is when, Carmelo comes off the floor and all of a sudden Novak hoists 5 3-pointers, makes one of them. J.R. Smith takes 3, and the offense becomes less fluid. But once the big guys come back, I mean, you know, Stoudemire's not going to shoot any threes. Felton, I mean, hopefully he can tone it down, but I think once the main guys come in, the lesser guys are going to get less minutes, and the offense will have a little bit more flow. But I guess it remains to be seen.
Interesting.
Christian, you mentioned the starting five and how Melo's been able to keep them in the game. I just want to throw at you the 9 other guys who played with Carmelo in his 42-point game in the playoffs against the Celtics 2 years ago. It was Stoudemire played 18 minutes. The rest of the team, Rony Turioff, Tony Douglas, Landry Fields, Anthony Carter, Roger Mason, Jared Jeffries, Sean Williams, and the immortal Bill Walker, who was 0 for 11 that game.
He was 0 for 11?
0 for 11 with 2 points.
And what was the final score of that game?
They lost 96-93.
They should have lost by 50.
Yeah. Melo dropped 42. 17 rebounds.
My God.
Remember, Jared Jeffries missed the layup at the end there.
Oh. Jared Jeffries, like, hands of stone.
Yeah, that was rough. But Melo's been doing, I mean, so my point being, I feel like that's been a sort of a recurring theme, but they've replaced those retreads with at least guys who can make open threes and play defense. But you really don't need other offensive creators on a team with Carmelo. The guy is such a horse on offense that you can play him 40 minutes a night and get. I mean, there's number 2 in offensive efficiency in the league, and they have Carmelo and J.R. Smith and Felton, I guess, are basically the 3 guys that can create their own shot, which is pretty remarkable.
Well, speaking of which, we're going to move on to a little segment from stemming actually from the NY's Mecca days.
Wow.
NY's Mecca, for those of you that don't know, is the predecessor to the Great Mambino, stemming from a house full of degenerates on
Yes,
Lane
sir.
Park, right outside of Boston College.
Brighton, Mass.
It
BC,
was-
who won tonight, 86-75.
Did they now?
What's up, Garland?
Virginia Tech.
Garland Owens will be getting a tweet from
Garland
from
Owens.
Miz
Right
tonight.
at you,
Get a-
Garland. Can't
put
wait
it-
to have you.
Put out that restraining order, Garland.
I'm sure it's
So
in
I'm
the, I'm sure
gonna
it's in the
name
mail.
off I'm gonna name off a couple facts and figures here, and I want these 2 Knicks fans to give me either a fact or fiction, and then explain yourselves.
All right.
First one, J.R. Smith. From here on out, 15 field goal attempts per night. Fact or fiction?
I'm not sure I understand. Is this like he will get them, or we're okay with
I
him
mean, it's
getting them?
pretty self-explanatory. It's exactly what you're saying.
That he'll take 15
that he'll
shots
take
a
15
game.
shots.
Obviously, you're factoring in a returning
I'm
Amari.
gonna go with fiction because I think that 15 is probably gonna be his high, and there are gonna be games where he probably takes around 8 to 10. The last month he's been taking a lot of shots only because he has to with so many guys out. But I don't see him taking 20 shots when the backcourt is gonna be backcourt's gonna have Felton and Shumpert. So he's logging so many minutes. Those minutes are going to go down. And, that's probably a good thing. Although, when he gets on his hot streaks, there's nothing more fun than rooting for J.R. Smith.
Yeah. I would say fiction. He's averaging 15 on the dot right now, and I think that'll only. I would imagine that would go down once Felton comes back. Stoudemire gets reintegrated, and I don't think that'll be a big deal. He only took 12 shots per game last year on the Bockers.
All right. Raymond Felton has averaged so far this season 15, 3, and 6. Pretty solid averages. He's coming. You got a bunch of people coming back. You have Shumpert coming back. You have Amari coming back. Obviously, does this change? Raymond Felton 15, 3, or 6, and 6, I should say. Fact or fiction?
I'm going to say that's fact. I think that
Fact that it will change.
the fact that it will stay
won't
the same.
change.
Why do you think so?
I just going back to why we need him right now is like he's the only guard that can really create a shot right now, and so Woodson is going to have no choice but to play him a good amount of minutes and leave him in there to direct the offense. I don't know if he'll take as many shots, so maybe the 15 part of it might go down, but for the most part, I don't see him getting a huge drop off from that.
Miz?
Yeah, I would say. I think they'll probably decrease slightly once he comes back. I'm interested to see how Woodson plays everyone once he's back with Stoudemire, because if you're playing Stat with the bench, him and Felton had such good chemistry that they played together for 54 games in 2010, 2011, and Stat averaged 25, 8, and 2, and Felton averaged during that stretch 17 points, 9 assists, 3.5 rebounds. So I think they've exhibited a good chemistry together, and I wonder if it'll just be interesting for me to see how Woodson, does he play Felton more with the second unit and play, I guess, Prigioni and Kidd more with what we consider to be the starting five with Melo and Chandler, and defense, whoever is there with White and or Brewer and Shumpert. But I mean, as is, he's playing with the most efficient offensive player in the game, Tyson Chandler, lobbing him.
I mean, that's the thing. It's like
I don't know if his assist numbers will go up that much.
The Knicks' offense is so, efficient right now that if you give Felton 30 to 35 minutes a game, it's not going to be that hard for him to get 6 assists.
Yeah.
So, regardless of who's on the floor.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't see. I mean, if there's a drop off, it can't be. It's not going to be that big.
I agree. I mean, I think the points part is fiction. I don't think that he's scoring 15 points a game. I just think that his shooting has been a little bit too good, even as modest as it's been. I think that he's not a really good 3-point shooter. I think 35% is a little bit high for him even.
Yeah.
So I think that it'll bear down a little bit. So I don't think 6 assists is out of the question, but definitely that point total is a little bit high.
Less on the points. He is only shooting 39. We'll round up and say 40% from the field, which is below his career average. And seems like there's a lot of nights where he's like 4 of 15 and just like chucking.
Yeah.
He has that look on his face. He's sweating.
Well, I think
profusely.
when you're starting
calm
with
down, dude. What are you doing here?
when you're starting with Ronnie Brewer, you kind of feel the need to put up shots a little bit more. So I think if maybe Shumpert could come in and be better than Ronnie Brewer, which isn't that hard, I think you have less shots for Felton, especially if he's going to play more with Amari. He's going to play so much more off ball. That'll be probably shooting less.
These are some of the bigger, I guess. Against the Lakers on December 13th, he was 9 of 26. Against the Nets,
that's terrible.
Against the Nets at Brooklyn, he was 3 of 19. On Christmas Day against the Lakers, he was 5 of 19. I feel like in the national TV games, he's playing a little too aggressively offensively, and seems to always just shoot himself into huge holes. Because otherwise, he's had mostly pretty efficient games, but every now and then, and it seems like it's those nights where they're on TV or they're playing a good opponent where he just sort of shoots himself into oblivion.
I don't like his shot selection when it comes to that first initial move of the offense, whether it's a pick and roll or just trying to create something on his own. Because I mean, for any point guard, if you're going to come up and take a shot without passing the ball, you better be really good.
Right.
If you're really going to go against the grain of the offense and just chuck up a shot with 15 seconds left on the shot clock without giving anybody else a touch,
you better be Steve Novak shooting 47% or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And one of those players has, been the offensive player of the year. I mean, come on, guy.
Come on now.
So, kind of going off, we're talking about how efficient the Knicks are in offense. Let's talk about how terrible they've been in one area, which is rebounding. They're the league's 5th worst rebounding team, according to total rebounds. I'm not talking about rebound rate, just total rebounds. Fact or fiction, the Knicks can continue to win with the league's 5th worst rebounding.
I think fact. I think well, granted, I'm going to answer any question. Can they keep winning? It's fact.
But how do you rationalize the fact that they are winning while being such a poor rebounding team? I mean, I think if you look at this team, there's one above average rebounder.
Tyson Chandler's back taps don't count as rebounds.
They don't.
So that's like a bit. It kind of skews those numbers a little bit.
They have the 24th best offense. 24th best. They're 24th in the league on the offensive rebound rate. But yeah, Chandler must keep 5 plays alive a game with
at least.
tap-outs.
I mean, there are possessions where he does that like 2 or 3 times.
Which puts them, if they had 29 or 30, if you added 5 or 6 to that, they're in the top 5 in terms of offensive rebound rate, and probably moves them towards the middle of the pack in terms of overall rebounds.
Okay. I dig.
I mean, and they're basically playing a small lineup when you have Carmelo Anthony at the 4.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to get more rebounds by playing a bigger lineup, you're losing the offensive efficiency, that's worked so well for them. So, yeah, I mean, rebounding's important. It's definitely going to be important in the playoffs when less fouls are called. But for now, we'll be okay with it.
Yeah, I think so. Especially with Camby coming back. He was a beast on the glass last year. We have a lot of bigs to throw out there. Stoudemire has done nothing on the glass. I think he's averaging 1 rebound a game. But I think with this team, it'll be a matter of whether they can keep the offense as efficient as it is. They've been really hard to defend. They're making their shots.
Interesting. Well, I'm going to move on to my final fact or fiction question. It's definitely my favorite. Fact or fiction: the Knicks can beat the Heat, the reigning champion Miami Heat, in a 7-game series.
I'm going to jump El Miz and say fiction because I know he's going to get riled up. The Knicks have beat the Heat twice by 20 points
One
each.
time without Carmelo
in South Beach.
In South Beach, man. And still.
I really think the main factor is going to be how the referees officiate the game because when LeBron goes to the rack, he either scores or gets fouled. Obviously he'll miss a shot every now and then, but what I mean by is he gets treated the way a superstar has been treated since superstars existed, whereas Carmelo Anthony gets destroyed in the paint, and he goes to the line a lot, but not nearly as enough as he should, and I don't know that he has a good enough reputation. Obviously lingering doesn't help, but he doesn't get the calls, and I think that goes. It just was shown in that Boston game. Boston played really great defense, but they also just mucked it up. I mean, they would push people. Be like body fouls that don't get called. When the Heat play, they get called all the time. So I don't think that the Knicks will have enough to overcome that. And not to mention the Heat have the best player in the last 20 years. So I'm going to say fiction, but I'll let El Miz have the floor here and talk about the Knicks.
I think that's a fact. I
told you.
Shocking development.
It's good. It's good I jumped him to
they
get.
They can beat the Heat in a 7-game series. Just like there is possibility that they could beat the Heat.
I mean, yeah, I guess if there's the possibility, I mean, the Denver Nuggets beat the Supersonics 3-2 when they had Dikembe Mutombo, and that's it. I mean, it's possible, but
there's a chance.
It should be fact or fiction. The Knicks will beat the Heat in a 7-game series, and I think that's fiction.
Yeah, well, home court would be big. Home court would go a long way in terms of potentially getting them some of those calls, especially after the absolute abomination in last year's playoffs, where I think LeBron would have earned himself over $50K in fines for flopping in Game 1 alone, rolling around like he got hit with a steel chair by Tyson Chandler. Just laughable stuff. So I think
I've never seen a flagrant foul called on a pick.
Yeah, just laughable.
It's embarrassing.
And then J.R. Smith, him and J.R. went for the ball, and LeBron flailed. Rose, he was probably in the second row over the cheerleaders. J.R. Smith is, anyway. I think I hold out hope. If we had home court, maybe it'd be possible. But yeah, I mean, they're the defending champs. LeBron's the best player. It would be hard. Stranger things have happened.
I love it. That's so that's it for fact or fiction.
There. I got one more fact or fiction. Fact or fiction. Lingering is not a suspendable offense in the NBA.
I don't think it's a suspendable offense, but you also have to think about things that happen in the locker room are considered part of the game. If you're on the grounds, it's part of the game, right?
If it weren't for Twitter and smartphones, this would have never happened.
Surreptitious video of Melo standing around in his silly ass outfit with Mike Woodson going,
if you talk about, you're talking about
Gilbert Arenas
getting Gilbert Arenas getting suspended because he brought a gun onto company grounds, right?
That's suspendable.
I know we're talking. I know
lingering,
we're talking about
gun,
apples. I know we're talking about
lingering.
apples and oranges here, but the truth is, like, Carmelo was going there because he wanted to either fight KG or pretend like he was going to fight KG.
Like, David Stern must be a scared man because he's suspending the Knicks historically for a bunch of guys just standing around. He must get nervous when a guy like Melo just sort of lingers with his beanie on in his vest. Like, With 20 uniformed police officers there, they got screwed in the 90s with their nonsense with their suspensions for stepping 1 foot over the line. And
was this your Knicks rant?
this is
No, this was not my Knicks
is
rant,
this
but
is it fact or fiction time for a Knicks rant?
Fact or fiction? Time for a Knicks rant.
That's
That
a
is a
fact.
fact. That is a fact.
So anyway, I think it's bogus. It's gonna hurt us against the Pacers. That's my rant. Christian, all you.
my Knicks rant is not really relevant to this week per se, but it came during the Portland game where Damian Lillard proved that my prediction of him being Rookie of the Year was going to come true. But Damian Lillard's clinching play was hitting a jumper over Pablo Prigioni. And at the end of the bench sat James White, who hadn't taken his warm-ups off yet. And in a game where the opposing point guard is literally just walking by people and scoring, the inability of Mike Woodson to put James White and just shadow Lillard for 2 minutes to see if it would have worked was unbelievable. And Jason Kidd was guarding Damian Lillard for most of the game. Like, this happened. This happened. A 39-year-old man was guarding someone who was 22.
23-year-old kid.
And we lost by 5 points. We lost by 5 points. I mean, Woodson's rotations have been at times comical, and without someone without someone to just bring it all together, he depends on people who have been there before. And James White is certainly not the player that you want logging heavy minutes. But no Felton, no Shumpert. You're playing against a team that has athletic guards, and to not try it for 2 minutes, it's like, come on, like. I wanted to go over the bench and say, hey, James White, you want to play some? Like, I wanted to do it because
Get him in there.
he had give him a try. It's just like these rotations during some of the games where they're losing are just not good sometimes. But it's fine. It's fine. We're 23-11, right?
Yeah.
That's fine.
That's a good Knicks PODBINO, guys. I love it. Good stuff from you guys as always.
You better
We'll
be
back,
ready for this Lakers pod.
Yeah,
we're gonna
we'll be
hammer
back,
you.
We'll be
Special
back
guest
shortly.
Sakurai-gawa.
I believe we're going to do it tomorrow. We're going to post it tomorrow, our Knicks, or I'm sorry, our Lakers pod. So everybody be ready for that. Thank you for listening to the great PODBINO. Much love, Christian, Ms.
Adios.
Don't forget Mags.
And producer Mags. My apologies. I haven't gotten a producer Mags by now, but
And some Budweiser
Mags
and
sitting
white
over there
bread.
with an empty Pacifico, a full Bud Diesel,
A loaf of bread.
a loaf of bread. What are you doing? Just a loaf of bread.
You have
I mean, yeah.
Man's
well,
gotta eat.
Yeah, we'll fill
you
up.
haven't heard of that classic American combo, Bud and bread?
Yeah, fill up on that Wonder Bread. Christ.
Till next time.
Till next time. Thanks, guys.